Hello students, I am soft skills trainer from Department of Career Planning and Development. So students, during placement drives or during your interviews, apart from these general questions regarding your resume, regarding your behavior, regarding some HR questions, you will face some questions that will sound to you as of the interviewer is asking out of nowhere. For example, let me give you some basic example of those questions. Like he might ask you, okay, just tell me the number of trees in the Chandigarh, tell me the number of street lights in the Chandigarh, can you guess the how many calories are there in a Kiryana store. So such type of questions, they don't have any accurate answer. But why in the first place the interviewer is asking you these questions? So the main purpose of the interviewer to ask you this particular question is to understand your depth, how you're going to proceed towards the solution, how you're going to narrow down different variables and somehow try and give him the estimated figure. Okay, approx figure actually he's looking for. He's not looking for accurate answer. He doesn't even know how many trees are there in Chandigarh or street lights in the Chandigarh. He just wants the way you are proceeding towards the solution. So for this particular session, we will be covering guesstimates, that means guesswork plus estimation. So let's start this particular session. Okay, so the one thing about the guesswork plus estimation is actually it helps one to work efficiently with higher degree of precision and innovation to help the company status in the market. Okay, this is precisely the reason the interviewer generally check the candidate's knowledge through guesstimates. It's also a way to check, okay, how aware you are about your surroundings. Okay, moving on forward. So there are different steps to involve to solve the guesstimate. So there is this approach called ATSCA approach. So what this particular approach, let's see. So number one is clarify the problem. For example, if the interviewer is asking you some particular problem, tell me, okay, again let's take this particular, how many trees are there in Chandigarh, or something like how many street lights are there in Chandigarh. So you need to first clarify the problem, what the particular problem is looking for, what kind of tree that particular person is asking. Is he talking about the forest area as well, or he is only talking about the trees on the lanes, on the side lanes of the road. Okay, again break down the problem. This is the most important step. Rather than just jumping on this towards the answer, you need to first break down the problem into different parts and then try and solve those parts individually. The result will be you'll able to answer that particular question. Okay, the third step is solve each piece. Again, fourth is consolidate your data, and the fifth and the last is provide the final answer. So we just rewind what this particular approach, that particular approach ATSCA is. You need to first clarify the problems. The thing about the clarifying the problem is bringing down the number of variables. The more the variables, the more complex will be the problem. If you can reduce the number of variables in the particular question, you can somehow start working on that particular problem. And again, if you know how many variables are there, you can actually start working on individual variable, and then you can start solving those variables, then consolidating your data, and obviously in the end you will be providing him the answer. Okay, moving on forward. So how many let's take this particular example, how many liters of cola is sold in Delhi in a day? So this particular question, this can be asked in an interview. Okay, so if I'm a recruiter, if I ask you this particular question, okay, tell me how many liters of cola is sold in Delhi in a day. So after hearing this particular question, you'll be somehow confused. Okay, what can be the answer? I don't know what can be the answer. But if you try and approach this particular problem with a given set of steps, the steps that I'm talking about in the previous slide that you looked at is the ATSCA approach. Okay, ATSCA approach. So you'll be able to arrive at some kind of a figure that will not be the accurate figure, but again you can provide some estimation or some approx figure to the interviewer. And again, it's really important to build your answer step by step. Please do not jump just to give the final answer, or do not even give up. Just, okay sir, I don't know like how many liters of cola is sold. Try. You can take some time for solving this particular question. Okay, let's try and solve this particular question. You can solve this particular question with me. Okay, so step number 0. There is the step number 0, that means before even beginning to start solving the question, this is the first step that you can take. So take a step back and think. This step is simple and clear. You need to step back and start thinking about the problem. So what this particular step says is, resist the urge of immediately answering the question. Again, I've told you this thing. Perhaps you can ask let's say you can ask 30 seconds, or you can take a gap of or a pause of 5 seconds before making such request. You can do that. For example, because the thing is, at times you are not you need to have those 5 seconds with you to even try and comprehend the question, okay, what that particular question is, and then you can ask some time from the interview to solve the particular question. Again, create a mind map of the exhaustive list of parameters. Again, you need to somehow start calculating the number of variables that can be there to solve that particular question. You may ask for a sheet of paper if you really require a sheet of paper, pen and pencil, depending upon the interview setup. Okay, step 1 is ask. You need to clarify the doubts. What kind of doubts? The more you ask, the more easily you'll be able to answer this particular question. Because the thing is, when you'll be asking some questions to the interview, you'll be somehow start eliminating some of the extra variables that might be there in your head. So first thing that you need to do is start asking questions, clarifying your doubts. Okay, so this helps the interviewer. Okay, this also gives an impression regarding you to the interview, that you have that particular ability to go beyond the obvious and look for the bigger picture, look at the bigger picture. Okay, did the interview, for example, what kind of a question that you can ask, or you can think in your mind to ask the interviewers, did the interview only refer to the cola as in the cold drink or the homemade beverage? Because the question was clearly written in this particular, how many liters of cola. It was not talking about the Coca-Cola. It was not, because the cola drink is generally beverage. Okay, it's a soft drink, and that usually is a darkish brown color, or sometimes kind of a blackish color. It's not a blackish, as you can say, dark brown color of a cold drink, and we call that particular drink as cola. So but talking about Coca-Cola. Okay, because if I would have asked you regarding Coca-Cola, so you could have literally answered, okay sir, we need to go to the website, how many because everything, almost the Coca-Cola company has the entire data with them, what's the consumption, because on the basis of that they actually produce. But we're not talking about any particular brand, we are talking about only cola as in cold drink. Okay, normally, or you need to clarify, okay, that whether it is a cola or a homemade beverage. And the second thing is, what does Delhi refer to? It's a really important question. The Delhi city or the NCR? Because we know national capital region is quite a big region. You have Gurugram coming in, then you have Noida also, then you have Faridabad, and nearby areas are also there in the Delhi NCR. So you need to first clarify, okay, what do you mean by Delhi or Delhi NCR? Okay, again, you are actually bringing down the number of variables so that you can start working on that. What time are we talking about? Is it a special day like a festival that invites people to Delhi? For example, if you're talking about in the months of, let's say, June, July, August, or you're talking about the marriage season, these drinks are high on consumption. But if you're talking about in the months of, let's say, November or December or January, the sales of these drinks, or if someone is making those drinks at home, the number of liters, the consumption actually dips because it's cold. But in summer time, if the particular person is clarifying, if the interview is clarifying, okay, I'm talking about the how many liters of cola is sold in, let's say, June. So you can think, okay, in June the consumption is really high, or July the consumption is high. Okay, so that's the one thing. Again, moving on further, not only do you showcase that you try to be exhaustive with your assumption, you also limit the scope of your whole solution, again bringing down the variables, extra variables. Okay, moving on forward, breaking down the problem. Again, this is the step number 2. After clarifying those doubts, you can again then you have to start breaking down the problem. Now the breaking down is, first, what all variable that you need to cover is, number 1, you need to somehow guess the total population, income category of consumers, above poverty line and below poverty line. Now why I have included those two things, above poverty line and below poverty line, because it's quite simple. Like below poverty line would not be consuming large amount of Coca-Cola, because they earn by working really hard. Okay, so they won't be spending that amount on their drinks, soft drinks, something like that. Okay, so again age group is really important, because most of the people above like 50 or 60, they don't consume these drinks, and below the age of, let's say, 8 or 5, parents don't allow their children to consume these soft drinks. Okay, now 5 to 20, then we have 21 to 40, and then we have 41 to 60. So I have 3 age groups, and 60 and above, 4 age groups. Okay, type of consumers, different type of consumer I can have, for example, high, moderate and low. So actually now I have 4 variables, and I have, in those 4 variables, I have some sub variables. For example, above poverty line, below poverty line, then I have divided those population into different age group, 5 to 20, 41 to 60 and above type of consumer. I have high, moderate, low. Okay, now start solving each piece of the problem. Now the total population I'm talking about. So again, income category, age group and type of consumer. So these are just guess figures or approximate figure. So we are taking the total population of Delhi as 14 million, that is 1.4 crore. Sound okay, because we know that the population of Delhi like 1.5 crore to, let's say, you can say 1.7 crore something. So we have 1.4 crore or 14 million as in the total population of the Delhi. Now we can talk about the income categories. Okay, below poverty line, somehow we have that particular stats we know. Okay, how many people are above the poverty line and how many people are below the poverty line. So we are assuming, like as per the statistic, that that there are 10 million people above the poverty line. Below poverty line, that is 30% does not consume. We are actually taking this into account, that they will not be spending their hard-earned money on these things. Okay, then we have age group like 5 to 40, typical cola drinking age group, like 60% of the population. We have our median age in India like 27. So we can say that the age group of 5 to 40 is a typical cola drinking age group. So somehow we can assuming that it to be 60%, considering the fact that in India we have a median age of like 27 to 30. So we have 6 million people in this particular age group. Then we have type of consumers. So type of consumer, how we are categorizing our type of consumer. So high, the people who are drinking 1 liter of cola every single day. So we have put them into high consuming consumers. And for moderate, we have 0.5. The consumer who are drinking 0.5 liter are moderate consumer, and the low consumer we have said like 0.01 liter. Okay, so we have categorized them into this particular area. So 20, 40, 40, because every single day we don't drink Coca-Cola. So as for cola or beverages, there's only on some occasions, and if someone is kind of addicted, so we have taken into account 1 liter of cola is actually I would say is a large amount to drink on a daily basis. Okay, so again consolidating my data. So 1.2 into 1, 2.4 into 5 and 2.4 into 1. Now what these figures are actually telling you. So we have like this particular thing. So we have 20% of these 6 million. 20% of this 6 million is 0.12. 20% of 6 million is 0.12, and these 1.2, sorry, 6 million into 20% is 1.2 million. So these 1.2 million are drinking 1 liter of cola every single day. So I have written this thing over there. This is 1.2 into 1, that denotes 1.2 million people drinking 1 liter cola every day. Then we have 40% of the consumer drinking 0.5. 40% is your 2.4 million. So 2.4 million people drinking 0.5 liters of cola every single day. Again 2.4 million people drinking 0.1 liter of cola every single day. Okay, so if I can just consolidate my data, 1.2 and this is 2.4, sorry for the typo, so that accounts to 2.6 million. So I have this kind of approximate figure, or the estimation that I have is 2.6 million liters of cola is sold in Delhi on a daily basis. So I know this particular figure is not accurate, but somehow I have worked, somehow I have applied my brain to get to this figure, and that is what is the requirement. This is how you need to solve these guesstimates. So I hope you have actually understood how to solve these guesstimates. So from now onwards, if someone actually asks you, okay, how many again trees, calories, these street lights, and number of questions can be formed on this particular topic and guesstimates. So try and apply the things that we have seen in this PPT. Okay, thank you.